Pastor Jeff did an amazing job introducing this three-part series last week, and I'm really excited to move forward today. Today is going to be probably one of the most practical, well, it is definitely the most practical message I have ever preached, and it will probably potentially be the most practical one that I will preach for a while, as we deal with the topic of personal stewardship. So last week we learned that everything we have belongs to God. Everything we have, our money, our time, all of it, it belongs to Him. And that's the beginning of understanding. If we want to be, and I'm going to use the term today, financially free. Okay, and I'll define what I mean by that in a little bit. But if we're going to be financially free, that is the beginning of that journey, is to understand that everything we have belongs to the Lord. We are but stewards, and we define that a steward is someone that takes care of someone else's possessions. And that's what we are, because the Lord has entrusted us with money and with time, with gifts and abilities, and we must make a decision whether we are going to be a good steward of those resources or a bad steward. And so this morning, I want us to begin by looking at the story of the parable of the talents, which is found in Matthew 25:14. So if you have your Bibles, it's kind of a long passage. We're going to read and talk through this. And this will be the foundation for our understanding. And we're going to talk about today living on a budget. We're going to talk about what that means. We're going to talk about, give some examples of wise purchases and unwise purchases. So it's going to be a very practical day. And we've got about 3 hours worth of information that I'm going to cram into 25 minutes. So you need to listen quickly. Don't slow me down. All right, let's read this together. Again, it will be like a man, and sorry, I should give that again. Matthew 25, hopefully, yeah, it's up there, 14 through 30. Again, it will be like a man going on a journey, who called his servants and entrusted his property to them. All right, so what are they? They're stewards, right? Because the property has been entrusted to them. To one he gave 5 talents of money, to another 2, and to another 1, each according to his ability. And then he went on a journey. The man who had received the 5 talents went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 more. So also the one with the 2 talents gained 2 more. But the man who had received the 1 talent went off, dug a hole in the ground, and he hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received the 5 talents brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 talents. See, I have gained 5 more. And his master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things, and I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Now let's just pause for a moment right there. Notice the reward, all right? The servant did well with a small amount, and now he has been entrusted with more. All right, because we all want to be richer, right? Is there anyone here who would like to be poorer? Raise your hand. Okay, all right, good. We would all like to be richer. So if we want to have more, then we must be faithful with what we have first. All right, let's move forward. The man with the 2 talents also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 talents. See, I have gained 2 more. And his master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things, and I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Then the man who had received the 1 talent came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your talent in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. And his master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown, and I gather where I have not scattered seed. Well, then you should have put my money on deposit with the banker, so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. Take the talent from him and give it to the one who has the 10 talents. For everyone who has will be given more, and he will have an abundance. But whoever does not have, even what he has, will be taken from him. And throw that worthless servant outside in the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now you have to understand that this parable has a twofold meaning. All right, it has a meaning in terms of the financial aspect, which is what we're talking about today. It also has an aspect that deals with eternal life and with sowing the seeds of salvation. So we're going to deal with just the first part of that today. So what I want to say that to you so that you don't walk away thinking that that's all there is to this passage, because there's a lot to this. But we're going to deal with the practical aspects in terms of finances. So what are some conclusions that we can draw from this story? Well, first of all, it is very clear here that we have a great example of stewardship, of what it means to be a steward. That we are to be people of action, to use those funds. All right, so we're not to hoard it. And I think some of us, we tend towards one extreme or the other extreme. Okay, the one extreme is to hoard money. You can't ever spend anything. Everything is a sin. You can't buy anything. You're just going to put it all in the bank or hide it under your mattress and just hope that you don't have an emergency or something and have to spend 10 cents. Okay, that's kind of the one extreme over here. Okay, then the other extreme is let's just spend it all, don't worry about it. You ever heard the old adage is burning a hole in your pocket? You just can't hang on to money. You just got to spend it. You see something, you're like, oh, I got to have that, and it's just gone as soon as you get it, and maybe you even spend it before you get it. All right, and so you rack up credit card debt. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. So those are the two extremes. Now, neither of those are really great, are they? Because neither of those extremes fit into our story very well. Because on the one hand, we're to be actively using what God's given us, right? We're supposed to use it. But on the other hand, if we hoard it all and we keep it to ourselves, use it for ourselves, then it can't be used. And so we have these two extremes, and we want to be somewhere in the middle. And so that begs the question, well, where in the middle should we be? Well, I think as we explore this topic today, you have to come to the place where you make a decision or a commitment to yourself. If you're married, you and your spouse make a commitment together that you are going to spend money wisely. Right? It's a choice. We all have that choice. Some of us choose to spend it wisely. Others of us choose not to. Now, there's an element when it comes to spending money of what I call self-control. All right? I don't like this word. This is a bad word. I think it should be like the S word or the D word, because I don't like to be self-controlled. That usually means I have to not do something that I want to do. I don't like that. I just want to go out and do whatever I'm going to do. But yet, I have learned that when I go out and do whatever I want to do, it does not go well with me. And so we have then that application to ourselves. And so this is a very personal thing, I think, for each of us. It's not really a team effort for us. Now, there are instances where it is. But today, I want you to think just about you and your attitude about money, about your time. We're going to talk really primarily about money today, but it really applies to everything that you have. Your gifts, your ability, your health, how you take care of yourself, whether you eat nutritionally or not, whether you exercise or not. All of those things apply here, but we obviously don't have time to talk about all those things, so we're going to deal in particular with money so that we kind of fit within this three-part series as well. So, if we have made that commitment then to spend our money wisely, to spend our money God's way as stewards, then we have to determine how to spend those funds wisely. The question is, what are the guidelines? How do I know if I'm spending my money wisely? And there are a lot of tools out there. I call that, or I define that for me personally, as living on a budget. In almost 16 years of marriage, my wife and I, we have always lived on a budget. I believe that a budget helps you be self-controlled. I think it's a tool. You have to be careful. Sometimes we can get confused and we make certain things really important. And we say, oh, if you don't live on the budget, then you're living in sin. Okay? There's nowhere in the Bible that it says that you have to live on a budget. Okay? All right, and some of you are going, oh, thank you, that's so good. But if we're going to be wise stewards, then we need to have a plan, right? We need to have a plan. Otherwise, how do we know that we're spending our money wisely? How do we know that we're spending our time wisely? I've got the budget thing down pretty well, but one of the things I struggle with is spending my time wisely. I get overzealous sometimes, and I'll spend too much time in one area to the neglect of another. And so we have to be balanced. We have to be careful with that. So what I want to do now, I have a slide that I prepared. If you want to flip to that, whoever's back there, John, Caleb, all right, great. Thank you. Here is a great sample budget, okay? And we're going to talk through this very quickly, so you may have a lot of questions. If this is foreign to you, if this is new to you, then you may look at that and go, wow, that is math and all kinds of stuff that I really don't want to deal with, all right? So you may want to talk to me later and say, hey, can you clarify some of these things for me? I would be happy to sit down with you and talk to you about this. The Lord has blessed both my wife and I. We were raised with very shrewd parents. And I say shrewd in the sense that they, for the most part, spent their money wisely, and we learned that. And so I'm thankful for that. And so as we started out, when we were very young, we started out not living above our means, not spending money that we didn't have, but we lived humbly in a very small 2-bedroom duplex. It wasn't even 1,000 square foot. Big, and we started very small, and we worked hard and began to put the plan of God's will for us and how we are stewards to work. And we have done that for the most part faithfully. Has everything we've ever bought been wise? No. Has every financial decision we have ever made been great? No. So make sure that you don't think that I am perfect by any means. But I want to share a little bit of our story as we go through this, so that you don't think that I'm just, asking you to do something that I'm not willing to do. All right, so I picked an amount of money here at $20,000. And you might say there's no way that you can live on $20,000 a year. And I'm here to tell you that you can. The first year that my wife and I were married in 1997, we lived on $13,000. And we were fine. We always had food to eat. We had shelter. We had entertainment. We had plenty of things. It's just how we all decide that we're going to spend our money. That's what either limits us and makes things difficult for us down the road, or that's what causes us to become financially free. So let's just talk through this real generally. Now, don't get all worried about the numbers and the percentages and all. This is just a sample. This is just an idea. All right, first of all, and Pastor John is going to talk about this the whole next week. Actually, next week is our commissioning service, but the next week after that, he's going to talk about tithing and what it means to give. And so that first category up there is our tithe, our 10%. And notice it's the first thing, because the Bible teaches us that we should give the first fruits, or the best of what we have, to the Lord for His work. All right, so that's that first 10%. Then after that, have some money into savings, all right? There's lots of verses about storing up, because we don't know what the future is going to bring. Some money in savings. Then our housing. And I think this is one of the problem areas. I'm going to kind of stop at each of those. Many of us want to live in a bigger place or a nicer place than we can afford. All right, that's a temptation. We all do. We would all like to live in a very nice big house, maybe up on a hill, maybe with 20 acres, or some of you who are more city people, you might like to have a penthouse somewhere real high up in the air with like one of those swimming pools that's like 5 stories in the air. I don't know. But you can picture that house. We all want to have those things. And we see a lot of times our parents, or maybe even some of our peers, and they have these big homes, and we think, wow, I want to be like that. I want to have that. And so we put more into our budget than we can handle. All right? But really, you should be about 25% or 30% at the most of your income, your annual income, should be on housing. Okay? Now, as we go through this, what I don't want to happen is you just sit there and, oh, wow, I'm at like 80%, So don't panic, okay? My goal today is to help you, is to give you an idea. Now, this budget actually came from Crown Financial Ministries, I believe. But there's a lot of different Christian budgeting places online. I mean, this is all free, and you can go and I can help you find these resources if you don't know how to find them. And these are just great guidelines from people that are very wise, that have studied this very carefully, and are wise stewards. And they have demonstrated that, and they have offered these things to help us, all right? We have utilities, of course, that's our heat and air conditioning and all that good stuff. Food. Now, food is really high. I put food at 20%. That's almost as much as you spend on housing. Why did I do that? Well, number one, I have 5 kids, so we eat like a grocery store's worth of food every month. But besides that, even if you don't have a lot of kids, food prices are really, really, really skyrocketing. I mean, I can remember when you could go and, well, some of you guys are going to one-up me on this one, but I mean, I could remember when a whole family could eat for $50 in a week easily. I mean, easily. I mean, that would be like eating Lucky Charms for breakfast. And I mean, that's the good stuff, you know. I mean, steak for dinner. I mean, those days have come and gone. All right. I mean, you can spend $50 on a meal. So that category is high because you've got to eat. And we're going to talk about needs versus wants here in a little bit. Eating, if you haven't noticed, is a need. Okay, now like that second and third and fourth and fifth portion, now that's probably more of a want. So we probably, even within that, we could talk a little bit about that. But that's why that category is so high, to compensate for the rising prices of food. All right, transportation, you know, that's our car and gas money. You know, one thing that I won't say that yet. I get to them and I get real excited and I just want to offer lots of suggestions. But we're going to wait till we get through this, talk through this budget. Clothing, all right, you know, yes, we would all like to have true religion jeans. But just say no to that, okay? You can be a Christian and not have true religion jeans and be spiritually mature. Okay, trust me on this. All right, so clothing, but you do have to have some clothing because there is ordinances against public lewdness. So you do want to have clothing, medical and health expenses, health insurance and all that. You know, probably at the $20,000 level, you're eligible for some types of assistance there. So you're not going to need a whole lot. But as your income goes up and you're not eligible, then you're going to need to have health insurance and all those other things. So that category is probably a little low, but given our income there, and you know, you may want to apply this to yourself. You may make $40,000, so you may want to double some of these numbers, or you may make more than that, or you know, you may want to adjust that. Again, this is just kind of for our sample. Personal, you know, there's just stuff we got to have occasionally, you know, miscellaneous things, toothbrush, you know, whatever, you know, you see a bracelet that you just really want to have, that's fine, you know, if it's in your budget, go buy it. Recreation, you know, going to the movies, doing fun things as a family, all that kind of stuff. Now, if you do not have any debt, well, you can take that debt category and just apply that somewhere else. You know, put it on recreation or, you know, whatever, live a little nicer house, whatever you want to do. But if you have debts, you need to have that in your budget. And you need to be having a plan to pay that off. Let's just talk about debt for a minute. Now, don't get nervous because it's not going to get personal. I'm not going to go around the room and ask you how much debt you have. What I will say about debt is what keeps us from being financially free. Right? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, as we look at this budget, the more debt you have, the more that you have to take out of all those other categories to pay on, right? Now, for some of you in here, there's really two types of people in here. There's the type that you're probably younger and you've not accumulated a lot of debt and you have options. And I'm sure there are many people that would turn to you right now and say, don't buy stuff that you can't pay for, all right? Because we've learned that if you have debt, you've learned that it becomes a burden. It just sucks the life out of you sometimes, and you carry that around, and it's hard because you're paying all of your normal expenses, plus you've got to pay for these other things that you've already bought and that are probably old and now broken or whatever, and it's very frustrating. And so to you, I would say be very careful and be very thoughtful. Humble yourself and realize that you don't have to have as much as you think you have. Don't spend money that you don't have. All right? Now, probably let's just pause right there. And if you walk away with nothing else today, then walk away with that understanding. Don't spend money that you don't have. You know, this is the reason why our government is in so much trouble right now. And I'm not going to get all political and all that, but I want to say in a non-political way that about almost a third of our budget now goes to pay off our debts. Can you imagine what it would pay for if we had all that money freed up? Just think about that. You know, think of all the education and all the good things that we could do with that money, all right? But it all started because at some point someone felt like they needed to have something, and so they borrowed just a little bit of money. See, it's not like we all walk out and we go, oh, I want a new boat, and so I'm going to just drop 20 grand, bam. You know what, for the most part, none of us do things like that. We know better than that. It starts small. It starts with $50 or $100. And then it grows, and it grows, and it grows, and it grows, and before long, it's just like a vine that's just strangled us all up. All right, so let me switch. Now, if you are in a place now, young or old, where you have a lot of debt, then what I want you to do is to really pray about that and think about that and make a decision that A, you're not only going to stop adding to that debt, but you're going to come up with a plan to get rid of it. Because that is really, really important. It's really important. And you may think, man, I have no idea how I'm going to pay for that. But here's what I can tell you from someone that has tried, I've not always succeeded, but that has honestly tried to be a good steward and to live the way God wants me to live. God has always taken care of me. Even when I didn't know where that next meal was going to come from, or where that next health insurance payment was going to come from, where that next house payment or rent was going to come from, God was always faithful. But there was an obligation that I had to be faithful as well. We can't just do whatever and expect God to pay for it. It doesn't work like that. We have to be good stewards. And sometimes He will. Sometimes He extends grace to us, even when we're not wise stewards. But if we're consistently unwise, then we're going to reap the fruit of that, and we're going to be in trouble. All right, that's good. You can take us back to our first slide there. Thank you very much. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of the problem areas, because today, as we look at budgeting, I think there are snares, maybe laid by the devil, maybe just happenstance, that catch us, that grab us, or there are lies that we believe in our minds. We have grown up maybe with a certain understanding, or we've watched a lot of commercials and they've told us, with just 10 easy payments of whatever, or they made that thing look so great, like we had to have it. Or maybe parents, you feel guilty or bad because you didn't buy your child this thing, and so you got into trouble. And it just kind of grabbed you. It's just like you're walking along a path and a snake kind of comes out and just bites you. You didn't see it coming. And so I wanted to maybe prevent some of those things from happening to you, or maybe help you see some things that are happening around you that maybe aren't really clear right now. All right, number one. So here's what I'm going to offer you 13 tips and tricks to reducing or abstaining from certain types of spending. All right, now, you may not agree with these, and that's okay. I have tried to take these from biblical examples, but obviously there wasn't Starbucks. Obviously there weren't gas stations in the Bible, so we can't make some statements from the Scriptures. So we have to read about what a good steward is and then apply it to our culture, all right? And that's what we're going to attempt to do with these. So if you're taking notes and you're a list person, you want to make a list, this is a great time to make a list. If you came unprepared, then you can listen to this in about 2 or 3 days on YouTube. All right, number one. All right, now this is, and let me clarify it here. If you have money in your budget for all these things that I'm saying here, there is nothing wrong with you buying that at all. In fact, I rejoice with you as you make that maybe not so bright purchase, Yes, maybe there's probably better ways you can spend your money, but if that money is available, if you have worked hard for that and you have taken care of your debts, you've given to the Lord, you've fed the poor, you've done all those things you're supposed to do, then there's money left over to play with, great, all right, great. But if not, and I would guess, and I know most everyone in this room, that you are probably in need of reducing your expenses, then this hopefully will be a benefit to you. Number one, don't buy snacks and drinks at the gas station. All right, it's very tempting. Every time you go to get gas, especially if you conditioned your kids, let's get out and get some pop and blah, 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 blah. Okay, because that adds up really fast. Now, if you're a family of 7 like us, you know how much it costs if everyone goes in and gets a drink? It's like $12 or $15 or more. And then if everyone gets a snack on top of that, now obviously the kids are like, what are you talking about? We never do that. And that is probably true. My kids could probably count on one hand how many times they ever got a drink at the gas station. So sorry guys, you're just abused and neglected. All right, but that is a great way to save money. All right, think about it. You probably go to the gas station once a week. And if you're used to getting drinks or snacks or whatever, and you stop doing that for a month or two, that's a lot of money that you just poured right back into your budget. And the old adage, a penny saved is a penny earned, is a very true statement, all right? Number 2, don't eat fast food. Okay, why am I saying that? Well, 1 is really bad for you, but that's a different message for a different day. All right, but number 2, fast food offers you low nutrition for a high price. All right, you can go to the grocery store and get 2 or 3 really good meals for the same price as that $6 or $7. It used to be $5. You used to be able to get like a meal deal for $5. Now, I don't know about you, but I cannot get a decent lunch for less than $6 or $7 anymore. It's just crazy. Okay, but this isn't me complaining about how much things cost. This is us learning to be good stewards. All right, number 3, limit your eating out at restaurants. All right. Is there a time to go out as a family and eat? Yes, absolutely. In fact, last Friday night, our whole family went out to Godfather's Pizza here in Ozark, and we ate pizza buffet, and it was great. We enjoyed it. There are times to eat out, all right, unless you're on a very tight budget, and then that's something you just need to wait until you have more money available for. But we need to limit that. Eating out is one of the quickest ways to rack up a big credit card bill. I mean, you just think about a family of 4 that eats out, that's about $40, $30 to $40 by the time you pay tax and tip and all that at your restaurant. You probably are not going to get out the door for less than that. Now, let's say you do that 2 or 3 times a week. All right, that's almost $1,000 in a month. All right, so that adds up very fast. So if you're looking for a way to reduce, now I know it's easy right now. See, you're sitting there with your spouse and you're going, "See, I told you." You know, some of us are real tight-fisted and we don't want to spend any money. Some of us are just like, it's good. The world's probably going to end next month anyway. Let's just spend it all now. All right, so don't go jabbing your spouse. Just think about it, pray about it, talk about it, and decide if there is maybe an adjustment that you need to make. Number four. This is very hard, okay, and I'm going to hurt someone's feelings, I know, when I say this. But the goal, this is not you are bad if you don't do this. This is shoot for this, strive for this, try for this. Don't charge more on your credit card than what you can pay at the end of the month. All right? Now, if you struggle with self-control in this area, guess what? There is a solution. There is. It's don't have a credit card. That's what the solution is. Now, I know that sounds terrible. Okay, I know that sounds scary, and you might wonder, how in the world can you live without a credit card? Now, I don't know that. Honestly, I have credit cards, and I pay them off every month, and that would be a challenge. All right, I would have to probably go to the envelope system or a debit card or something. There are times where you really have to have something to swipe. A lot of places don't take cash and they don't take checks anymore, so you have to have some plastic. So maybe a debit card is a good alternative because your bank tends to not let you draw out more than is in there. So they will help you be self-controlled in that manner. All right, so hopefully we can have a little fun with that. I know that all of us at times have struggled with that, or maybe we even had good intentions that we planned on it and something happened and then we weren't able to pay that off. But that's one way that we get into a lot of trouble because credit card interest is much, much higher than our car interest or house interest, and your $100 can turn into $300 before you know it if you're not able to pay those off. So maybe you've got a lot of credit card debt now and you're thinking, man, I'm in trouble, what do I do? Well, the first thing you can do is decide, okay, I'm not going to add any more to that. I'm not going to continue to get further and further. That's the first step. You have to, a lot of these things, they're steps you have to take. You cannot wake up tomorrow and just be an outstanding money manager. It's something we have to strive for, and we have to learn self-control, and we have to learn to say no to ourselves when there's things that we think we have to have that we don't have to have. All right, let's go on. Number 5. All right? Now, this may or may not work for you. I talked to some friends here recently that this actually created a problem for them. But I think for most of us, converting credit card debt, or really it's not necessarily credit card debt, but if we have a lot of different debts from a lot of different places and some of it has a high interest rate, some of it has a low interest rate, we want to get rid of the high interest rate stuff first, right? This is common sense, right? Because we're going to pay more in interest on that than we are on the small stuff. So start there and work towards those lower amounts, and if you can kind of put it all together under all one low one, that would be ideal. All right, and you can go to the bank and talk to them about that, or go to a credit union and talk to them about that. There's a lot of people that are willing to help you. I would be willing to help you, to sit down and talk with you and to look at your situation and to make some recommendations. All right, number six, save ahead for medical expenses, for emergencies, for new appliances. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in life. And if we're wise, we will recognize that right now, that something, you can't just hope that everything is going to go well. I mean, Christ has always told us that there will be suffering, there will be hardship for us. There always will be until Jesus returns. So we know those things are going to happen. We know that washing machine is eventually going to stop. We know that car is eventually going to have some kind of a problem that's going to cost more to fix it than it's worth. We know those things are going to happen, so we have to put some money aside for those times. All right, for emergencies. You can call it savings, you can call it emergency fund, whatever you want to call it. We have a little bit of money that we set aside, and every month we put just a little bit in it until we got to the amount we're comfortable with. And so now, if I have to have new tires, if I have to have a new appliance, if I have to have, we get some medical bills that were high, then we can take that money and pay for those, and we're not caught. It's like being caught out in the open in a war zone. You don't want to be that. You want to have some kind of cover. You don't want to be caught out in the middle of this huge field with no trees or anything for cover and be getting shot at. And so you might think to yourself, yes, I would never run out into a field like that. And yet, we do that with our finances, don't we? And we may think, well, I don't have money to put into emergency fund. And that's when we have to kind of deal with the topic of, okay, well then what's money I'm spending now that I might not necessarily have to spend? We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Okay, so saving ahead. Number 7, downgrade your car and start paying yourself or start paying yourself payments. There was when I was a young man, I'm kind of still a young man, but everyone keeps pointing out my gray hairs lately, so now I'm thinking I'm not quite as young as I once was. But early in my life, I remember listening to a gentleman who was talking very similarly to the way that I'm talking today, and he suggested that instead of just paying your car payment until you pay your car off, and then you buy a better car, and then you pay that car payment, okay, instead of doing that, get a car. A car you can either pay cash for or something you can pay off in 3 to 6 months, a very short time period, to where you own that car and you're paying nothing on your car payments. And then keep paying yourself those car payments. Take a year, take 2 years, take 3 years, however long it takes. And you know what is amazing? If you do that, you will eventually build up enough cash, and think about how wonderful this is, to go pay cash for a car. And so now, instead of borrowing money and paying interest on it and always feeling like you're behind and always having that annoyment payment come in the mail, now you can just buy a car every time, and all it is you just pay that car payment to yourself. And most of the time we can afford to do that. But you know what happens? We want to have a nicer car than we can afford. We all want to, don't we? And we all want to have that BMW, Cadillac, I don't know, whatever it is. For some of us, that nice car is maybe a car that's 10 years old that runs, So it doesn't have to be, some of us will just settle for an old car that works good, But whatever it is, let's maybe humble ourselves a little bit and think, I don't have to have that nice of a car. It needs to get me where I'm going, but that's about all I need. Maybe something with a little more efficient fuel economy, but maybe you're at that point right now and you're thinking, in 6 months, in 12 months, I'm going to pay my car off, and you're looking, for that next car, and maybe you should push the pause button and think, hey, you know what? I could just drive this car for a few more years, and I could save up, and then I wouldn't have to be in debt anymore. All right, so that's just an idea for you to consider there. All right, that was number 7. Number 8. Number 8, this one wounds me, it hurts me when I say this. Don't go to Starbucks, okay? If you're trying to reduce your spending, if you have credit card debt, whatever it is, don't go to Starbucks, all right? Now, let me qualify that. I love Starbucks. I like Hebrews and some of the other places even better than that, but I'm kind of, Starbucks is like the big one, so it gets lumped in, it gets thrown under the bus with everybody else. But when you spend $4 or $5 on coffee, and yes, that really is what it costs. It costs $4 or $5, maybe even $6 if you get like a big venti with soy milk and all this other stuff, which I'm into all that. I like that, okay? I get that. I enjoy a good coffee. But that adds up really, really fast. All right, that's just like the gas station thing. And that is something that we can do without. We may be addicted to caffeine. We may be addicted like that sugar rush. So that's something we may need to deal with separately, but we can go without. We may just have to make it at home, do poor man's cappuccino at home. But that's something that can save a lot of money. $5, there are some people, and I'm not condemning anyone, and if this is in your budget, great, go for it. But people that will spend $5 every work day, so if you work 5 days a week, that's $25 a week. There's 4.3 weeks in a month. So that's over $100 in coffee a month. All right, so that's a lot just for coffee. So that adds up quickly. So that's something that if you're trying to reduce your spending, avoid those types of beverages. They get it. Sonic, if you need a cheap beverage, if you go to Sonic between 4 and 6 in the afternoon, I think, is that right, Stephanie? 2 and 4. 2 and 4 in the afternoon, you can get a half-price drink. So there you go. See, now you've already saved money just right there in that 5 seconds. All right? And look for things like that. Look for kids eat free nights. Look, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing, you're not like weird or something or, poor or something because you're wise. Sometimes commercials make us feel that way. We feel like if we don't go blow a lot of money on a certain product that we're inferior or lesser than other people. But you know what I would say? I would say we're wiser. I would say a wise money manager is superior to an unwise money manager. So don't get caught up in that. Don't get deceived by that. That's how companies get your money. They try to work in your mind and they try to use your emotions to cause you to make bad choices. All right, number 9. And this is where we're going to deal with needs and wants. All right, now this may come as a shock. So maybe if you can hold on to your seat, everyone just kind of grab your seat there. All right, here we go. This may come as a shock. You don't have to have, here it goes, this is going to be scary, TV, internet, cell phones, smartphones, nice furniture, any furniture, new clothes. Okay, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. Okay, what do you really need? You need food, shelter, and safety. Okay, those are really only the 3 things that you really need. We can talk more about that, but generally, most of what we have to have falls under those 3 categories. All right? And honestly, if you live in the United States, you probably can get almost all of those things if you have no income whatsoever. All right? So for us, now if I was in Ukraine or Suriname or some other country in Africa, South America, Mexico, then I couldn't say that. We would be having a different conversation right now. And they wouldn't be going to Starbucks every day either. We would be having a different conversation. But here for us, it's a question of what do we have to have and what do we need, or what do we need to have and what do we want to have. All right, that's something we have to learn. We don't have to have all those things. If we can afford them in our budget, that's great. But if we can't, let's do without them for a while. The public library, it's amazing to me how many things the public library offers to us that we can use for free that we pay for at home. All right, now I have internet at home. We don't really have TV service. We have a real basic cable just for emergencies, like for weather. But we have internet and we have services like that. We have phones, we have smartphones. Although we didn't have smartphones until about 2 years ago, and we didn't have cell phones until 2007, all right? We were like the people everyone was making fun of because we didn't have cell phones. That would make people mad because they couldn't call us and be like, why don't you have a cell phone? So I get that. I get that pressure. I understand that. It just wasn't in our budget at that time, all right? And so you can make fun of me all you want and think I'm weird, but it wasn't in our budget, and we weren't going to rack up credit card debt so we could have a cell phone. Okay, soapbox. Anyway, so we can go to the library, and guess what? You can check out movies, you can check out books, and they're free. You don't have to pay $9 to download it on your phone. It's amazing. And you can get internet access for free, and it's fast and good. So you can do your email and whatever, schoolwork, all those things, and it's free. So we need to be wise and shrewd and ask ourselves, can we afford this? If the answer is no, then look for other ways, because I don't know how you would live without the internet, really. I mean, you have to fill out forms, there's work things that you have to do on the internet, tax things. I mean, it was very difficult. So there are some basic things like that. I mean, you got to have some access to a phone so you can communicate. So there are some basic things that we need, but let's be wise as we go about those things. If you have TV service, internet, a cell phone, the list goes on, that's hundreds of dollars a month. Hundreds of dollars a month for all that stuff. And those are things that we could do without. Now, would it be convenient? No, it wouldn't be as convenient as whipping something out of our pocket, but it's a choice that we have to make. All right, we need to move on because we need to wrap things up here shortly. Shopping at Goodwill, that's number 10. Okay, and again, I'm kind of using Goodwill as a stereotype. All right, Goodwill is a great place to go. There's one here in Ozark, in fact, and they have clothes and furniture and accessories and all that stuff. I got one of my favorite jackets that I have. It's a Ralph Lauren jacket. It's really nice. I took it to Ukraine with me the first time. $3 at Goodwill. Okay, and so you might have saw me wearing that and think, wow, he must make a lot of money because he has that $50 jacket, blah, blah, blah. $3 at Goodwill, all right? So you don't have to wear, Walmart clothes necessarily. Oh, there's nothing wrong with Walmart clothes. I wear Walmart clothes. But if you want to go to get some other clothes like Ralph Lauren or whatever, go to Goodwill, go to NBC, go to thrift store. There's lots of good ways to save money, to spend less. Okay, number 11, cook meals from scratch. Okay, now this may be foreign, and you may go, what does that mean? Cook meal, you go to Walmart and you buy it and you put it into the microwave. That's how you cook, right? Is there some other option? Yes, I want to share with you today. Now don't feel bad, okay? I'm not a great cook. I'm not someone like Jordan or like my wife that's just naturally good at that. Okay, I'm not at all. I had to have a lot of training. But you know what? I make my own eggs every morning. I eat about 6 egg whites and 1 egg yolk and cook it on the skillet with a little bit of canola oil and some sea salt every single morning. Stephanie, do I do that every single morning? Do I ever miss a morning of that? No. All right. So now, I am very busy. I work 50 to 60 hours a week, and I have rental properties on top of that, and I'm finishing up my doctorate, and I have 5 children, and I have a lovely wife, although she's more help really than a burden. But I have a lot to do, okay? And if I have time to stop and make myself eggs from scratch, you probably do too, all right? I'm sure there are many of you that are busier than me, but we have time to do that, okay? We're just a little bit lazy, and because we don't want to take time to do that. Do you know how cheap it is to make things from scratch? We had this morning, like we normally do on Sundays, we had pancakes from scratch. Not Bisquick, okay? Not whatever it is you peel off the shelf and you pour it in a bowl and mix it with milk or whatever, but from scratch, where you put like salt and sugar and eggs. And I know those are some of the things that some of you have never actually seen in its natural form, but it's amazing. We can all eat, all 7 of us, and I think the dogs probably occasionally get a pancake or 2, for less than one of us can eat a store-bought mix. Okay? It is very inexpensive to cook from scratch. So we have to make a decision, and honestly, it's a lot healthier. But again, that's not really the point today. But that's a choice, and that's really a good example of other choices like that. Sometimes it takes a little bit of effort. It takes us a little bit longer to be wise stewards. But the question that you have before you today is whether or not you are going to decide to be a wise steward. The last one, number 13, and this was kind of a no-brainer, pack a lunch. When you go to work, and this is a struggle for me, to eat out. But sometimes we eat out with friends, eat out for business meetings, and that's fine. But if you're going to go and sit in a restaurant and pay $6 or $7 to eat lunch, and you have...
We're 12. That's 12.
Oh, well that was... 12 was, oh, yeah, I did miss 12. I'm sorry. Sorry, list people. Okay, that's 12. That's 12. All right, I'm fixing your list. Okay, that was 12. All right. Packing a lunch, not eating out. Okay, so if you can do that, you can probably pack a lunch for $1 versus $7. Okay, you can do the math on that. Number 13, ramen noodle. Okay, this is just a statement. Okay, ramen noodles is a meal. Okay, contrary to popular belief. It has a little bit of fat. It has carbohydrates, and it has protein. Those are all the necessary nutrients that you need for it to be a meal. Okay? A donut is not a meal, incidentally. And, the list goes on. So, think about some of these tips and tricks. And there's a lot more that we could talk about. But I think if you look at all of those things, and you are confronted with that choice, I think deep down inside, we all want to be wise stewards. I know we all want to be financially free. And so the truth is, you can be. See, I think some of us, we believe that we can't. We believe we're always going to struggle. We're never going to be able to afford this or that thing. And it's not bad. It's not a sin to want something, to want a nice home and a nice car, or to have that nice techno gadget, or to go on that vacation that you've always wanted to go on. There's nothing wrong with that. But instead of being mad at the world because you can't have it, or just getting frustrated, use that as a tool. Use that as a goal setting. For me, what I really would like to do, and I know many of you are like this, I would like to give more money to missions. I would like to be able to give more to send people on mission trips, and to be able to go myself on more mission trips. I would love to do that. And there are other good things that I know we would like to have the money to do. Many of you are generous, but we have enslaved ourselves to debt and other expenses that we have. And we believe somehow that we can't get out of it. And I want you to know that you can. That you can. And it starts, and we're kind of come full circle. It starts at the very beginning with that decision, with that commitment to let God be the manager of your life. To let God be the master of your life, rather than us bringing it ourselves. And it goes far beyond money. It goes far beyond our time and our gifts, abilities. It permeates everything in our existence. So are we the wise steward that took the 5 talents and we used those and we brought back more? Or are we the wicked servant that buried it and we chose not? Remember what the master said? He was wicked and he was lazy. And there's not really a middle option there. There were the 2 stewards that chose wisely, and the 1 steward that chose unwisely. How will you choose? When you leave here tonight, when you get dinner, or when you're at the gas station, or wherever you are, what will you choose to do? Let's pray together about this. Lord, thank you for the time that you have given us today to consider these things. Lord, it's hard. It's very hard. So many things in life, the desires that we have, the temptations that we have. God, I know that your will for us is to be wise stewards and to rejoice and celebrate in the things that you have given us. So God, I pray that you would help us. Maybe there are some here this morning, Lord, that are so hopelessly behind. They're just discouraged. They're frustrated. They're disappointed. They're angry about their financial situation. God, I pray that right now you would just set them free from all of those things, all of that pain, and that you would give them hope and the possibility that they could move forward instead of being trapped and ensnared, but that they could move forward towards being financially free and being a wise steward. And I pray, Lord, that you would send people to encourage them. And God, I pray that we would encourage one another as a church, that we would be wise money managers. that the offerings that we receive, that the money that we give, that we would use it wisely for your purposes and for your kingdom and not to build our own kingdom. God, I thank you for the way that you set us free, that you give us hope when there seems to be no hope. And I pray, Lord, that for some that are struggling in this area today, that they would walk away encouraged and strengthened and ready for the challenges that are ahead. And we thank you for this time, and we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Well, and again, if you want to talk to me later about something, I would be very happy to sit and talk with you about that.